I'm James Carter. I just drove my father, Henry Carter, back from the hospital after a long heart treatment session. He's been in and out of the hospital for months now with all sorts of illnesses, and each trip home leaves him more drained. The long car ride left him pale, his hands trembling uncontrollably. Seeing him like that twists my heart. Henry's a former Army sergeant, but now he just needs rest. I parked the black sedan in the driveway, eager to get him inside, turn on the AC, and let him lie down. I just turned off the engine when I saw Vanessa standing there right at the driveway entrance, arms crossed, a smug smile etched deep on her face. She's the neighborhood's nightmare, and I knew right away something was off. Dread spread through me, like this awful day was about to turn into hell because of her. "James," she said, her voice icy sharp, "that car's violating HOA rules." I froze, glancing at my dad still in the car, slumped against the door, too weak to move. Vanessa didn't care. To her, rules are everything. Before I could react, she turned away, as if she'd just passed a death sentence. And that's when I realized our lives were about to be turned upside down, all because of this unforgiving woman. As Vanessa Brooks walked off with that smug grin, I stood there, hand still gripping the car door handle, looking at my father, Henry still slumped in the seat, breathing faintly. I told myself, this day can't get any worse, but I was wrong. To explain why Vanessa's mere glance chills me to the bone, I need to tell you about Willow Creek, our home in Oregon. It's a typical American suburb, identical white painted houses, lawns trimmed like they're measured with a ruler, and low fences just enough to keep everything neat. At first glance, you'd think it's a peaceful paradise, but only until you meet Vanessa, our HOA president. She's turned this place into a suffocating cage of rules, and no one escapes if she sets her sights on you. Vanessa isn't a local. She moved here 5 years ago after a divorce and early retirement from a bank job in Portland. Neighbors, like Mrs. Margaret Evans, an old friend of my mom's, say Vanessa was a branch manager, the type who controlled every penny and every second of her employees' time. When her marriage fell apart and her kids stopped talking to her, she poured all her energy into Willow Creek. To Vanessa, this neighborhood isn't just a place to live, it's her kingdom. She patrols daily, hardcover HOA book in hand, noting everything: who forgot to close their blinds properly, who left a bike out past curfew. I used to think she was just uptight, until our first run-in a few months back. That day I left the trash bin out 10 minutes past the pickup time. Vanessa knocked on my door, her tone like a judge. "James, this is your first violation. Next time there's a fine." I apologized to get it over with, but her eyes, cold, unrelenting, left me uneasy. Since then, I've tried to avoid Vanessa. But today, as I brought Dad back from the hospital, she showed up right when I was at my weakest. Henry needs an easy path, because he can't climb steps. We even built a small wooden ramp for his wheelchair. I know Vanessa hates that ramp, once saying it ruins the neighborhood's aesthetic. But I didn't expect her to target the black sedan, my wife Elena's car, just because it lacks a logo or flashing lights. To Vanessa, no excuse matters, she just needs a reason to strike. And when I heard the rumble of a tow truck in the distance, my stomach knotted. I turned to Dad, seeing him sigh wearily. "What now?" he whispered. I clenched my jaw, knowing Vanessa didn't just want to find me, she wanted to flex her power, no matter the cost. The tow truck's engine grew louder, like a warning no one wants to hear. I stood there, hand still gripping the car door, watching my father, Henry, inside, his tired eyes trying to stay calm. I turned to Vanessa Brooks, still arms crossed, her smug smile even sharper now. "Vanessa," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite my pounding heart, "what are you doing?" She tilted her head, like I'd asked something dumb. "This car violates HOA rules," she declared, her tone cutting like a blade. "Commercial vehicles aren't allowed here. The tow truck's coming to take it." I blinked, unable to believe my ears. "Commercial? It's just a plain black sedan, no logo, nothing." Elena's car, my wife's. But before I could explain, Vanessa pulled out her HOA book, flipping to a creased page, reading aloud like a judge. "Any vehicle used for business, delivery, or non-residential purposes must be towed immediately." I took a deep breath, trying not to let anger explode. "Vanessa, I've told you," I said, my voice shaking slightly from restraint. "This isn't a commercial vehicle, it's personal, my wife's. My dad needs it parked close because he's in a wheelchair." I pointed at Henry, now resting his head against the window, his breath shallow. Vanessa glanced at him, but her eyes held no sympathy. She tapped her fingers on the book. "It looks commercial to me, no family decals, doesn't fit the neighborhood." "Rules are rules, James." Blood rushed to my head. Henry needs that wooden ramp to get inside, and the car nearby is the only way he doesn't have to drag himself across the yard. But to Vanessa, that meant nothing. "We just got back from the hospital," I said, my voice cracking with desperation. "My dad's not well. Can't you wait a day to deal with this?" Vanessa shook her head. "No, the tow's been called. You have to follow the rules." Now the engine roared louder. I turned, seeing a massive tow truck roll down Willow Creek's narrow street, its lights flashing like an apocalypse warning. Henry sighed. "James, if it's trouble, let them take it. I can manage a few steps." His voice was weak, but I knew he couldn't. He could barely stand without the wheelchair. "No way," I muttered, turning to Vanessa. "You don't have the right to do this." She smirked, like I'd just dared her. And right then, the tow truck stopped in front of my driveway. A burly driver stepped out, clipboard in hand, face blank like it was just another day. He looked to Vanessa first, like she'd hired him. "Which car, ma'am?" he asked, voice low and steady. Vanessa raised her hand, pointing at the black sedan with a dramatic flourish, like she was sentencing it to death. "That one." "Take it away." I stepped forward, trying to stay calm, though my hands were balled into fists. "You're making a mistake," I said to the driver, voice low. He glanced at me, pen hovering over the paper. "You the owner?" I took a deep breath. "Not exactly. It's my wife's, but you shouldn't tow it." Vanessa snorted, rolling her eyes so hard, I'm surprised she didn't get dizzy. "Don't lie, James. Just tow it," she ordered the driver. I felt my patience slipping. "Vanessa," I said slowly, stepping closer. "Do you remember me saying my wife's an undercover cop?" The driver frowned. "What?" Vanessa faltered for a second, but then waved it off. "Nonsense, no cops around here. He's lying to dodge the rules." I locked eyes with her, voice dropping with warning. "Think hard, Vanessa. You're about to cross a line you don't want to." She smirked again, but this time I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. The driver hesitated. "If it's a government vehicle, I'm not towing it." "Legal mess." Vanessa spun on him, snapping. "I told you to tow it." "He's making it up." The tow truck's engine roared, drowning out the wind rustling through Willow Creek's trees. I stood there, breathing hard, watching the driver start hooking up the black sedan. Vanessa Brooks stood nearby, arms crossed again, her triumphant glare like she'd just won a chess match. My father, Henry, still sat inside, trembling hands gripping the armrests, his voice small but worried. "James, don't let them tow it. I don't want more trouble." But I couldn't let Vanessa have her way. "Vanessa," I said, voice hardening, "I'm warning you one last time. This is a police vehicle. You'll regret it if you let them take it." She laughed, the sound sharp like a knife slicing the air. "Police? In Willow Creek? James, you think I'm that stupid? No badge, no lights. It's just a car, and the rules apply to everyone." The driver glanced at me, then Vanessa, clearly confused. "If it's really government, I'm not touching it," he muttered, hand pausing on the tow line. Vanessa turned on him, face red with anger. "You're paid to do a job, not listen to fairy tales. Tow it now." I stepped forward, nearly shouting. "Don't you hear me? My wife's an undercover cop." But Vanessa just shook her head, like I was a kid lying to avoid punishment. Right then, I heard tires rolling on the road. A familiar silver SUV pulled up, parking behind the tow truck. The door opened, and Elena, my wife, stepped out. She wore a plain jacket, sunglasses, hiding half her face, but the way she stood tall, calm amid the chaos, shifted the air instantly. Vanessa turned, frowning, but still smug. "Oh, look who's here," she sneered. "What, you're going to tell me you're FBI now?" Elena didn't reply. She walked over, hand slipping into her back pocket, pulling out a small leather wallet. With a slow flip, she opened it, revealing a police badge gleaming in the afternoon sun. "Elena Carter, Oregon State Police," she said, voice steady as a stream. "This is my car, and it's government property." Vanessa froze, her smug smile vanishing like she'd been slapped. Her mouth opened, then shut, speechless. The tow driver backed off, hands up. "I'm done. I don't touch cop cars." He turned to Vanessa, annoyed. "You called me out here, you pay the call fee. I'm not getting sued over you." I heard whispers from afar. Mrs. Margaret Evans, standing on her porch next door, covered her mouth, chuckling. Sophia Rivera, the single mom 2 houses down, stepped out, phone in hand recording. Vanessa paled, realizing she hadn't just lost, she'd been seen. "This is a misunderstanding," she stammered, clutching her HOA book like a shield. Elena tilted her head, sliding off her sunglasses, staring straight at Vanessa. "The misunderstanding? You tried to tow my car, despite my husband's warnings. Want to explain that to the local police?" Vanessa trembled, but still tried to deflect. "I was just following rules. He didn't prove anything until you showed up." I crossed my arms, relief mixing with anger. "I told you a dozen times, Vanessa." "You wouldn't listen," the driver cut in. "I need payment, or I'm suing for my time." Vanessa choked. "I'm not paying anything. This isn't my fault." But Elena stepped forward, voice cold. "You called the tow, you pay, simple as that." Finally, Vanessa dug into her bag, tossing her credit card at the driver with a glare. He swiped it, muttering, "Thanks for the business," then drove off. Vanessa turned to me, eyes blazing. "You'll pay for humiliating me like this." After Vanessa Brooks stormed off, leaving behind the murmurs of Willow Creek's neighbors, I exhaled, thinking the nightmare was over. Elena patted my shoulder, her eyes as calm as ever. "She won't let this go easily," she said, voice even but laced with warning. I nodded, helping Henry out of the car, and up the small wooden ramp into the house. He was exhausted, but his eyes flickered with relief as I wheeled him over the threshold. "Thanks, James," he whispered, "and Elena too." I smiled, but my chest still felt heavy. Vanessa isn't the type to give up. She's the kind who'd dig up every pebble to get even. And I was right. Just 48 hours later, her harassment campaign began. That morning, I went to get the mail, and found a thick stack of papers crammed in our mailbox. I opened them, a slew of HOA violation notices, each scribbled in Vanessa's jagged handwriting with her signature. The first: grass exceeds HOA standard by 0.5 inches, $50 fine. The second: mailbox paint faded, below neighborhood aesthetic, $75 fine. The third made my blood boil: unapproved wooden wheelchair ramp, violates construction rules, $100 fine per day until removed. I stood there, hands shaking with rage, staring at the ramp Henry needs to get in and out. It's nothing fancy, just some boards I nailed together so he isn't trapped inside, but to Vanessa, it's a thorn in her side. I brought the stack into the kitchen, setting them in front of Henry as he sat with his coffee. He glanced at them, tired eyes narrowing. "All this over the car?" he asked, voice soft but guilty. "Not exactly, Dad," I said, sitting across from him. "She's mad she got embarrassed in front of everyone. This is her revenge." Henry sighed, hands tightening on his wheelchair arms. "I feel like a burden, James. If not for me, you wouldn't have to face her." His words stabbed my heart. "Dad, it's not your fault," I said, grabbing his hand. "Vanessa would find a reason with or without you. She doesn't back down." But I saw his eyes dim, like he blamed himself for his health fading after years in the army. I couldn't let him feel that way, and I couldn't let Vanessa keep tormenting us. The next day, more notices arrived, even more absurd: shrub in yard 2 inches over max height, $30 fine. I slammed it on the table, feeling like Vanessa was turning our home into her personal battlefield. Elena got home that night, saw the stack and frowned. "She's crossing lines," she said, voice icy. "This isn't just harassment, it could be illegal." I nodded, but my mind screamed one thing: I have to do something. The next morning, I checked Henry's ramp and found loose nails. Not random. I suspected Vanessa, or someone she hired, tried to sabotage it. Henry sat on the porch, watching me fix it, his voice sad. Maybe I should stay inside more, bother her less. I stopped looking at him. No, Dad. This is our home. You're not a prisoner. That night, I sat with Elena, the violation notices spread across the table. What does she want? I asked, voice hoarse with anger. Elena tapped the table, eyes glinting like she was cracking a case. Power, and she hates being challenged. But James, if she's targeting Dad's ramp, she's violating the Americans with Disabilities Act. We can use this. I stared at her, resolve surging. You mean fight back? Elena nodded. Yes, but we need proof, and the neighbors' support. I picked up the notices, gripping them tight. Vanessa thinks she can torment us forever. She's wrong. The next morning, as the first sunlight streamed through the kitchen window of our Willow Creek home, I still held Vanessa Brooks' stack of violation notices, my mind racing with thoughts of fighting back. Elena had left early for work. She's on a big case, but last night she was right. We need proof, and the neighbors backing to take Vanessa down. I looked at Henry, sitting in his wheelchair by the table, his hands flipping through the notice about the wooden ramp he relies on daily. You sure you want to make this a big deal, James? He asked, voice low but worried. I don't want the whole neighborhood against us. I put a hand on his shoulder. Dad, if we don't act, Vanessa won't stop. She's not just after us. And I was about to prove it. I stepped outside, intending to check the ramp again for any more signs of sabotage, when I saw Mrs. Margaret Evans, my mom's old friend, watering plants on her porch. She waved, her eyes curious. James, I saw everything yesterday, she said, her voice soft but sharp. Vanessa lost a round to Elena, but I bet she won't stay quiet. I nodded, telling her about the stack of violation notices and the loosened nails on the ramp. Margaret frowned, setting her watering can down. You know, she once fined me $50 for planting red tulips, said they didn't match the neighborhood's color scheme. I had to rip them out, even though they were the last gift from my husband before he passed. I stood stunned, not expecting Vanessa to go that far. You didn't fight back? I asked. Margaret sighed. I'm old, James. I didn't want trouble, but if you stand up, I'll back you. Less than an hour later, I ran into Sophia Rivera as she took her 2 young kids out to shoot hoops. Sophia's a single mom, living a few houses down. I told her about Vanessa's harassment campaign, and her eyes darkened. She once threatened to report me to Child Protective Services. Sophia said, her voice trembling. Just because my kids left a basketball out overnight, she called it a community hazard and said I wasn't fit to be a mom. I had to pay her $100 to shut her up. My fists clenched, anger surging. Vanessa wasn't just a rule freak, she was a bully, using her power to crush the whole neighborhood. That afternoon, I knocked on Tom Delaney's door, a quiet single guy who lives at the end of the street and keeps to himself but notices everything. Tom opened the door, coffee mug in hand, eyes probing. I know you're here about Vanessa, he said before I could speak. He led me inside, opened his laptop and showed me a video. Vanessa standing in front of Sophia's house, pointing and yelling about the basketball, her voice threatening to call CPS. I've recorded her flipping out a few times, Tom said, his tone low. She fined me $75 because my garage door is light gray instead of dark gray like the rules say. I kept the videos for protection, but if you need them, use them. I stared at the screen, heart racing. This was evidence, the kind Elena said we needed. When I got back, Henry was on the porch, looking at me with a mix of shock and hope. So it's not just us? He asked. I nodded, sitting beside him. No, Dad, Vanessa's been tormenting the whole neighborhood for years. Margaret, Sophia, Tom, and probably more. Henry gave a faint smile. So we've got allies. I nodded, resolve igniting. After hearing the stories from Margaret, Sophia, and Tom, I came home with a mess of emotions, anger that Vanessa Brooks had terrorized all of Willow Creek, but hope because I wasn't alone. Henry sat on the porch, watching me walk up with curious eyes. What'd the neighbors say, James? He asked. I told him everything. Margaret's tulips, Sophia's basketball, Tom's videos. He nodded slowly. So she's not just after us, but what are you gonna do? I grinned. Dad, I'm gonna fight her, and I've got backup. But before I could plan, Vanessa struck first. The next morning an HOA notice was stuffed in our mailbox. Emergency meeting, 7 p.m. tonight at the community house. Topic: James Carter's rule violations. My heart sank. She wasn't waiting to hit back. By 7 p.m., I walked into the Willow Creek community house, a small room with plastic chairs in rows and a whiteboard up front. Over 20 neighbors were there, whispering as I sat next to Henry, who insisted on coming despite my worry about his fatigue. Vanessa stood at the front, in a gray blazer, holding her familiar HOA book. She tapped her pen on the table, signaling silence. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice fake sweet. "Today we need to address a serious issue. James Carter and his family are undermining our neighborhood's value." I felt heat rush to my face but stayed quiet, waiting to see her move. Vanessa pointed at me. An unidentified car parked in his driveway, an unapproved wooden wheelchair ramp, all violations of HOA rules. "We can't let this behavior continue." The room buzzed. Vanessa held up her book, reading aloud, Rule 4.2, all non-residential vehicles must be removed. Rule 7.1, all exterior changes must be board approved. She looked at me, eyes gleaming with triumph. James has ignored these rules, even lying that his car's a police vehicle. I propose a $500 fine, and removal of the wheelchair ramp. Henry gripped his wheelchair arms, whispering to me, "She wants me gone from the neighborhood." I clenched my jaw, standing. "Vanessa, you know that car's my wife's, an undercover cop. You saw her badge, and that ramp's the only way my dad gets in and out. You can't fine us for his basic needs." Vanessa smirked. "Personal needs don't override community rules, James. And that car? No one believed the cop story until your wife showed up. Convenient, huh?" A few nodded, but I saw Margaret frown and Sophia shake her head. I turned to the crowd. "She's not just after me." Margaret got fined for tulips. Sophia was threatened over her kid's basketball. Who here hasn't been hit by Vanessa over petty nonsense? The room went silent for a second. Then Margaret spoke. "He's right, James. I lost my husband's flowers because of her." Sophia added, "She nearly called CPS on me." "I'm with James." Vanessa slammed her hand on the table, face reddening. "Enough. This isn't a pity party. I'm HOA president, and I have the right to keep this neighborhood up to standard. I propose a new rule, ban all unidentified vehicles, double fines for repeat offenders." She glared at me, eyes blazing. "James, you should think twice before challenging me." I stood tall. "You think you can bully this neighborhood forever? We're not staying quiet anymore." A few clapped, but Vanessa raised her hand. "Who supports my proposal?" Several hands went up, people more scared of her than against her. She smirked. "That's enough." Motion passed. "James, you've got 48 hours to remove the car and ramp or pay up." After the HOA meeting, I wheeled Henry home under Willow Creek's dim streetlights, my mind spinning with Vanessa Brooks's ultimatum. 48 hours to ditch the car and dismantle the ramp or face heavy fines. Henry stayed silent the whole way, but once inside he grabbed my hand, voice shaky. "James, you don't need to blow this up over me. If the ramp's trouble, just take it down." I looked at him, eyes clouded with exhaustion, thin hands from years of combat now just wanting peace. "Dad," I said, voice firm, "I'm not taking anything down. This is our home, and you deserve to live comfortably." He nodded faintly, but I knew he was still worried. Vanessa wasn't just threatening us, she was trying to erase the little freedom he had left. 2 days passed in tension. I didn't touch the car or ramp, waiting to see what Vanessa would do when the deadline hit. Alana came home late each night, tied up with her case, but she agreed with me. "She won't stop, James. We need to be ready." Then the second night came, and Vanessa crossed every line I'd imagined. I was in the kitchen, making tea for Henry, when I heard an odd noise outside, like wood being pried. I ran out, heart pounding, and saw Henry's ramp trashed, planks shoved loose, nails pulled out. the edge teetering like it'd collapse. I knelt to check it, hands trembling with rage. This wasn't an accident, someone did this on purpose, and I knew it was Vanessa, or someone she paid. The next morning, I helped Henry onto the porch for fresh air, one of his rare outings besides hospital trips. I'd patched the ramp, but it was still shaky. As he rolled over it, a plank snapped under the weight. Henry lost balance, his chair tipped, and he fell into the yard, shoulder slamming the ground. "Dad!" I yelled, rushing to lift him. He clutched his shoulder, face twisted in pain, but forced a smile. "I'm fine, James." "Don't worry," but I saw blood seeping through his shirt, a long scrape on his arm. I got him inside, called an ambulance, and while waiting, one thought consumed me. Vanessa did this. She wanted the ramp gone, and now Henry paid the price. At the hospital, the doctor said Henry had a dislocated shoulder and needed weeks of rest. As I wheeled him to his room, he grabbed my hand, voice soft but guilty. "I'm sorry, James. If not for the ramp, you wouldn't be here." I squeezed his hand. "Dad, it's not your fault. Vanessa's gone too far." When Elena visited, I told her everything. The wrecked ramp, Henry's fall. Her eyes darkened, fists clenching. "This isn't just harassment anymore," she said, voice icy. "She deliberately endangered him. If we can prove it, she'll face criminal charges." I nodded, but my mind screamed one thing. I had to end this. That night, as we got home, I saw Vanessa across the street, arms crossed, staring coldly at the patched ramp. I stepped out, confronting her. "You did this, didn't you?" Vanessa shrugged, voice flat. "I sent notices. That ramp's a violation. If it broke, it's your fault for not removing it." Henry from his chair on the porch spoke up, voice weak but firm. "Miss Brooks, I'm a disabled veteran. That ramp's my only way out. You want me trapped inside?" Vanessa smirked. "If you need so many special things, maybe you picked the wrong neighborhood." Rage flared, nearly lunging at her, but Elena appeared behind me, hand on my shoulder. "Vanessa," she said, voice cutting. "You just threatened a disabled person and violated the ADA. Keep going, and you'll land in jail." Vanessa rolled her eyes and walked off, but I caught a flicker of unease in her gaze. "We'll see who wins," she tossed back before leaving. As I brought Henry inside, he whispered, "I don't want to be a burden." I knelt beside him. "You're never a burden. Vanessa's the problem, and I'll make her pay." That night, after Vanessa Brooks left with her final threat, I sat in our Willow Creek living room, dim light casting shadows on Henry's tired face. He'd fallen asleep after pain meds from the hospital, but I couldn't rest. The wrecked ramp, his fall, Vanessa's cold words, everything swirled in my head like a storm. Elena sat across, laptop open, her eyes burning with a resolve I rarely saw outside her police work. "Vanessa James," she said, voice low but steady. "This isn't just harassment anymore. It's criminal, property damage, endangering a disabled person. We can make her pay, but we need proof and numbers." I nodded, fists tight. The neighbors spoke up. "Now it's time we unite." The next morning, I called Margaret Evans, Sophia Rivera, and Tom Delaney to our house. They came with shared anger, Margaret with her tulip memory, Sophia with her CPS scare, Tom with his precious videos. We sat around the dining table, Vanessa's violation notices stacked in the center like a reminder of our common enemy. "She wrecked Dad's ramp," I started, voice hoarse recalling Henry's fall. "He dislocated his shoulder," and Vanessa stood there saying he doesn't belong here. Margaret gasped, "Good Lord, she's got no humanity." Sophia clenched her fists. "She threatened my kids. I want her gone." Tom slid his laptop toward me. "I've got more video." Vanessa yelling at someone else over a bush being too tall, threatening a $200 fine. "She's a systematic bully." Elena stood, her voice sharp like when she's grilling a suspect. "What you've got, videos, notices, stories is evidence. Vanessa's violating the ADA by targeting Henry's ramp, and possibly the Fair Housing Act by threatening residents. I've contacted a friend at the Oregon Housing Authority. If we file a complaint with enough documentation, they'll investigate." I looked at her. "You mean we can take her down?" Elena nodded. Exactly. But we need everyone to sign it. The more people, the stronger. Margaret nodded instantly. I'm in. She can't keep doing this. Sophia added. Me too. I'm tired of living scared. Tom shrugged. I've got the videos. Count me in. We started building the case. I grabbed my stack of notices, grass mailbox, ramp, and photographed the wrecked ramp. Tom transferred his videos to a USB, noting dates and times of Vanessa's harassment. Sophia brought the $100 receipt she paid Vanessa to avoid CPS, a shady fee with no official record. Margaret wrote a statement about the tulip incident, her shaky but firm signature at the bottom. Elena organized it all into neat folders, adding legal notes. The ADA protects disabled access. Vanessa can't find Henry's ramp without breaking the law. The Fair Housing Act bans discrimination based on health status. I stared at the pile, feeling like I held a weapon. Anything else? I asked. Tom smirked. Rumor has it, Vanessa used HOA funds for personal stuff, couch vacation. If true, that's embezzlement. Henry wheeled himself into the room, listening to us strategize. What are you kids up to? He asked, his voice weak but curious. I knelt beside him. Dad, we're planning to take down Vanessa. She's not just targeting us, she's hurting the whole neighborhood. We've got neighbors on our side. He smiled, his eyes lighting up for the first time in days. I'm proud of you, James. If you pull this off, I'll get outside without worrying about fines. I nodded, squeezing his hand. I promise, Dad. As everyone left, Elena and I sat back, reviewing the plan. Tomorrow I'll submit the complaint to the housing authority, she said. But Vanessa won't sit still once she knows we're fighting back. I nodded. She'll do something, maybe target the car or ramp again. We need to be ready. Elena closed her eyes, thinking, I'll keep an eye on her. If she acts, I've got colleagues at the precinct ready to step in. A week after the closed-door meeting with the neighbors, I sat in our Willow Creek living room, staring at the pile of documents we'd prepared for the Oregon Housing Authority. Elena had scanned everything. Violation notices, Tom's videos, Margaret and Sophia's statements, and sent them off this morning. They'll start investigating in a few days, she'd said, last night, voice brimming with confidence. But I knew Vanessa Brooks wouldn't just wait around. She was like a cornered animal, dangerous and unpredictable. Henry sat beside me, reading the paper, his eyes brighter since learning we had allies. What do you think she'll do next? He asked, voice soft but inquisitive. I shrugged, probably more violation notices, or worse, and I was right. But I didn't expect her to repeat her old trick so soon. That afternoon, I was helping Henry check the patched-up ramp when I heard a familiar engine sound, loud, heavy, unmistakable. I turned and saw a tow truck rolling down the street, lights flashing brightly. Vanessa stood at the driveway entrance, arms crossed, her gaze as cold as the first time. What are you doing now? I shouted, stepping forward. She smirked. That car's still here, James. I warned you, 48 hours are up. It's gone now. I looked at Elena's black sedan, still parked quietly in the driveway. You know damn well it's a police vehicle, I snapped. You've seen the badge. Vanessa shrugged, her tone flat. No logo, no lights to me. It's commercial. The new HOA rule lets me do this. Henry wheeled onto the porch, watching with worried eyes. Miss Brooks, he called out, voice faint but firm. How can you do this again? Vanessa glanced at him. Rules are rules, Mr. Carter. I'm just enforcing them. My fists clenched, anger flaring. The tow driver, a different guy from last time, stepped down, clipboard in hand, starting to hook up the car. Stop, I yelled, rushing to block the vehicle. This is an undercover police car. You tow it, you're in deep trouble. He frowned, looking at Vanessa. You sure about this? I don't want legal hassle. Vanessa snapped. Tow it, he's making it up. Right then, I heard a siren in the distance. A local police cruiser pulled up, followed by Elena's SUV. She stepped out, still in sunglasses, alongside a tall uniformed officer. Vanessa turned, her face paling slightly, but she held her smug front. What now? She sneered. Elena strode forward, voice icy. What are you doing with my car again? The officer cut in, eyeing the driver. Stand down now. He dropped the tow line, hands up, I don't know anything. She called me here. The officer turned to Vanessa. Miss Brooks, this is the car I almost towed last week, right? Vanessa smirked. I have authority under HOA rules. The officer raised a hand. State and local law trumps HOA rules, ma'am. This is a legal police vehicle. You can't tow it, especially not a second time. Neighbors started gathering. Margaret from her porch, Sophia filming with her phone, Tom watching from a distance. Vanessa noticed the crowd, her voice rising. I'm being harassed here. I'm just keeping the neighborhood up to standard. Elena removed her sunglasses, staring her down. You called a tow twice on my car, wrecked my dad's ramp, causing him injury. That's harassment, and possibly property damage. The driver cut in, irritated. I'm not doing this. Someone pay me or I sue. Vanessa spun on him. I'm not paying a dime. This is their fault. The officer shook his head. You called the tow, you pay, and I'm warning you, keep this up, you'll face charges. The crowd murmured, some chuckling. Sophia held up her phone. I got it all on video, Vanessa. Margaret chimed in. Time you stopped. Vanessa flushed, eyes blazing, but this time she couldn't argue back. She tossed her credit card at the driver, snarling. Take it, then turned to me. You think you've won? This isn't over. She stormed off, the crowd dispersing, leaving me with Elena and Henry. The officer patted my shoulder. Hold steady. If she pulls anything else, call me. Elena looked at me. She's losing it. The housing authority will step in soon. Henry, from his wheelchair, gave a weak smile. You did great, James. After the second tow attempt, the air in Willow Creek felt taut as a wire. Vanessa Brooks left with her threat, but I knew she was losing ground. The neighbors, Margaret, Sophia, Tom, had seen her crumble before Elena and the local officer, and Sophia's video spread through the neighborhood chat. I sat in the kitchen the next morning, brewing coffee, watching Henry flip through the paper with a rare ease in his eyes. Think she's done, James? He asked, voice tinged with hope. I shrugged. Not yet, Dad, but the housing authority got our complaint. They'll investigate soon. Elena walked in, phone in hand. They just confirmed, an inspector's coming this week. But James, she might try something stupid before she's exposed. Elena's words were prophetic. 2 days later I got a tip from Tom Delaney, the guy with ears all over the neighborhood. He called me over, opening his laptop with a sly grin. Listen to this, James. I dug up old HOA group posts online. Vanessa bragged about a new leather couch and a Hawaii trip last year. But the HOA never fixed roads or streetlights like she promised. I frowned. What are you getting at? Tom tapped the table. I asked some folks who pay maintenance fees. They say the money doesn't add up to what's been done. She might be embezzling HOA funds. I sat up, heart racing. If true, this wasn't just harassment, it was criminal. I told Elena as soon as she got home that night. She frowned. Embezzlement? If she used HOA money for herself, that's financial fraud. It might tie into the case I'm on. A money laundering ring using small channels like HOAs. Elena called her precinct colleague right away, asking for a check on Willow Creek's HOA accounts. Meanwhile, I met with Sophia and Margaret, asking if they had any odd receipts or payments to Vanessa. Sophia rummaged through her bag, handing me a crumpled note, the $100 she paid to avoid CPS. No official receipt, she said, just her handwritten scrawl. Margaret added, I paid $50 for the tulips, cash, no record. I snapped photos, sent them to Elena. She called back fast, voice urgent. James, this is ghost fee evidence, cash. Vanessa collected off the HOA books. If Tom's right about the couch and Hawaii, she's taken thousands. The next day, an inspector from the housing authority arrived in the neighborhood, gray suit, briefcase in hand. He knocked on doors, asking about Vanessa and HOA fees. Margaret told him about the tulips. Sophia the basketball. I handed over the violation stack and ramp damage photos. The inspector took notes, nodding. We're seeing multiple red flags in the HOA accounts. Has anyone heard Miss Brooks mention personal spending? I recalled Tom's tip. She bragged about a new couch and Hawaii trip. Neighbors think she used our money. The inspector frowned. If true, that's serious embezzlement. We'll order an audit. That night, Alana came home with bigger news. Jay's, my colleague, found suspicious transactions from the HOA account. Payments to a local tow company, more times than actual tows happened. That company's linked to the crime ring I'm investigating. I blinked. You mean Vanessa's tied to organized crime? Alana nodded. Maybe not fully aware, but she's a link. The housing authority and police are coordinating. I sank into a chair, mind reeling. Vanessa wasn't just a bully. She might be a real criminal. Henry heard it all, wheeling closer to me. So she didn't just wreck my ramp, he said, voice tinged with amazement. She stole from the whole neighborhood. I nodded. And we're about to end it, Dad. He smiled. Never thought I'd be in the middle of a case this big. I grinned back. You're the inspiration. Alana added. She's out of moves. The investigation's growing, and her secrets are about to unravel. After the housing authority and police teamed up to investigate, the air in Willow Creek grew heavy like before a storm. I felt the tension every time I stepped into the yard. Neighbors whispering, glancing at Vanessa Brooks's house down the street, where she still paced with a stiff face. HOA book always in hand. Alana updated me each night with a calm but cutting tone. They finished the audit, James. Vanessa siphoned over $15,000 from HOA funds, furniture, vacations, tow company payments. Henry, beside me in the living room, shook his head. How could she be that greedy? I shrugged. She thought she'd get away with it, Dad. Not for long. And she didn't. Vanessa had no idea her final swing would be her own undoing. 3 days later, a new HOA notice hit the mailbox. Emergency meeting, 6 p.m. tonight at the community house. Topic, review of James Carter's violations. I smirked reading it. Vanessa still clinging to power, thinking another meeting would crush me. Alana glanced at the paper, lips curling. She doesn't know she's done. I nodded. This is our chance. That evening I wheeled Henry into the community house, a small room with flickering fluorescent lights. Over 30 people were there. Margaret, Sophia, Tom, even faces that once feared Vanessa. She stood at the front, in a dark blue blazer, her voice ringing as I entered. Good, you're all here. Tonight we tackle a grave issue. James Carter continues to ruin our neighborhood. Vanessa pointed at me, her eyes blazing. An unidentified car, an illegal wooden ramp. He's defying every rule we've set. I demand a $1,000 fine and expulsion if he doesn't comply. The crowd murmured, but I stood, voice calm. Vanessa, you know that car's my wife's, an undercover cop, and the ramp's for my dad, a disabled veteran, to get in and out. You've got no right to fine us for that. She sneered. Rules are rules, James. You've proven nothing but words. But then Sophia stood, holding up her phone. I've got video of you trying to tow a police car, twice. You also threatened me with CPS over my kids playing basketball. Margaret chimed in. You fined me for tulips, $50 cash, no receipt. Vanessa slammed her hand on the table. Quiet. This is my meeting. But Tom Delaney rose, voice low. I've got pics of you bragging online about a new couch and a Hawaii trip, while our streets crack open. Where'd the HOA money go, Vanessa? The crowd grew louder, some shouting. Yeah. Answer that. Vanessa paled but still deflected. You're slandering me. I keep this neighborhood up to standard. Just then, the door swung open. 2 suited figures, housing authority inspectors, stepped in, followed by 2 uniformed cops. One inspector raised a hand. Vanessa Brooks, we have a warrant to search your home and HOA records. She staggered back. Voice shrill. You've got no right. This is an invasion. An officer blocked the door. You're suspected of embezzling HOA funds, property damage, and resident harassment. We've got evidence, over $15,000 gone, shady transfers. Vanessa screamed. Lies. James did this. She jabbed a trembling finger at me. I crossed my arms. No, Vanessa, you did. You wrecked my dad's ramp, got him hurt. You fined this whole neighborhood over nonsense. Henry spoke from his wheelchair, voice faint but clear. You wanted me trapped inside, a veteran. You should be ashamed. The crowd nodded, some clapping. An inspector rummaged through his bag, pulling out a file. We've got receipts, videos, and resident statements. You're also tied to a tow company in a money laundering case. Vanessa flinched, lunging for the door, but an officer stopped her, cuffing her hands. Vanessa Brooks, you're under arrest, he said. Voice cold, she thrashed, yelling, you'll regret this. James, you did this. I met her eyes. No, Vanessa. You chose this path. The crowd erupted in applause as the officer led her to the car, sirens piercing the night. As they disappeared, I turned to Henry, seeing his eyes glisten. It's over, son, he whispered. Elena stepped up, patting my shoulder. You did it, James. Sophia raised her phone. I got it all, justice served. Margaret laughed. About time. I stood there, relief flooding me. As the police car door slammed shut, taking Vanessa Brooks away amid her screams and the stunned gazes of the neighborhood, Willow Creek felt unburdened. I stood on the porch, hand on Henry's shoulder, watching the crowd of neighbors disperse, whispering about what they'd just seen. Elena approached, nodding at me. She's done, James. The housing authority and police will handle the rest. Henry smiled faintly, his voice relieved. I never thought I'd see this day. I squeezed his shoulder. We did it, Dad. She can't hurt anyone anymore. But that was just the start. The days that followed showed Willow Creek would never be the same. A week later, the housing authority released the audit. Vanessa had embezzled over $15,000 from HOA funds across 3 years, money spent on a couch, vacations, even inflated tow company payments. A small chunk went through murky accounts, matching the money laundering case Elena was on. She came home one night, badge off with a rare smile. James, thanks to Vanessa, I just cracked a major link in that crime ring. She didn't know she dug her own grave. I laughed. She thought she was clever. Turned out she was a pawn. Elena nodded. She'll face charges for embezzlement, property damage, and harassment. She's not coming back here. The neighbors moved fast. An informal meeting happened at Margaret Evans' house, where folks nominated me as interim HOA president. You led us against Vanessa, Margaret said, eyes firm. You're the right guy. Sophia and Tom nodded support, and though I hesitated, I didn't crave power like Vanessa. I agreed. I'll do it, I said, but on one condition, we rewrite the rules. No more petty fines or threats. This is our home, not a prison. The crowd cheered, and for the first time, I saw Willow Creek as a real community, not a battlefield. I started changes right away. With Sophia, I scrapped the rule banning toys in yards. Her kids could play basketball without fear. With Tom, I checked HOA accounts, refunding those Vanessa forced to pay ghost fees. Margaret got to replant her red tulips, and I helped her dig the soil myself. Most importantly, I legalized Henry's ramp. No one would find it again. Henry sat on the porch, watching me work, smiling. You gave me my freedom back, James. I knelt beside him. You deserve it, and more. Word spread beyond the neighborhood. A local reporter interviewed me and Henry, wanting the story of a disabled veteran and his son taking on a tyrannical HOA. Henry recounted the ramp saga, voice trembling as he mentioned his army years. I fought for this country, but never thought I'd fight to leave my own house. The article ran, and I got messages from across Oregon, people oppressed by HOAs, thanking us for inspiration. Henry read them, eyes shining, didn't think I'd matter to anyone. I grinned. You're a hero, Dad. Willow Creek came back to life. Streetlights got fixed, roads patched, with leftover HOA funds Vanessa didn't burn through. Neighbors chatted over fences, held barbecues, things Vanessa once banned for noise. I stood in the yard, watching people laugh, feeling the last weight lift. Elena stepped up, hugging me from behind. You changed this place, James. I turned. We did. Without you, Vanessa'd still be ruling. She laughed. Thank my logoless car. One weekend afternoon, I sat on the porch in Willow Creek, wheeling Henry out to watch the sunset blaze red on the horizon. The neighborhood felt oddly peaceful. Kids laughing from Sophia's yard, barbecue smoke wafting from Margaret's party, Tom quietly fixing a bike for a neighbor kid. Vanessa Brooks once made this a war zone, but now it was home, truly home. Henry held the tea I'd made, looking at me with brighter eyes than ever. "James," he said, voice warm, "you did what I never dreamed. You gave me freedom, and the neighborhood too." I sat beside him, smiling softly. "I didn't do it alone, Dad. There was Elena, Margaret, Sophia, Tom, and you. We all did it. Looking back, I never thought it'd go this far. At first I just wanted to get Henry home from the hospital without hassle. But Vanessa pushed us into a war, from the first tow attempt, the wrecked ramp, to those absurd violation notices. I once thought I'd lose, that she was too strong with HOA power in her grip. But I learned something. No one's invincible when you've got people beside you. Margaret lost her tulips. Sophia nearly lost her kids. Henry got hurt. Each of their pains fueled me to keep going. Elena was right. Sometimes you fight to keep what's right. And we fought, not just for us, but for all of Willow Creek. I turned to Henry. "You know I was scared to face Vanessa. But seeing you fall because of that ramp she trashed, I couldn't take it anymore." He nodded, eyes glistening. "I didn't want to be a burden, but you turned my pain into strength. I'm so proud." His words warmed my heart. This wasn't just a win over Vanessa. It was a win for family, for community. When the housing authority and police took her down, I realized justice takes time, but it comes, if you don't quit. Vanessa faces prison now, while we reclaimed our neighborhood, one ramp plank, one neighbor's smile at a time. As the sunset faded, I thought about what Willow Creek taught me. Power isn't with the bully, but with those who stand up. I'm no hero, just a former car engineer now, tending to Dad and fixing a neighborhood. But if we could do it, anyone can. Elena stepped out, sitting beside me. "What are you thinking?" I smiled, that we changed everything, and maybe someone out there too. She nodded. "That article about Dad inspired a lot of people. You should tell this story." The tale HOA President Vanessa Taus, my car, didn't realize it was an unmarked police vehicle, reflects a reality all too familiar in today's US HOA power trips, and the strength of community against injustice. In America, HOAs are a staple of suburbs like Willow Creek, where folks pay fees to maintain living standards. But sometimes people like Vanessa Brooks turn them into tools of personal oppression. Her targeting Elena's logoless car, wrecking Henry's ramp, and embezzling HOA funds mirror real cases, like reports of HOAs fining residents over trivialities, grass too tall, wrong paint color, or mishandling finances, sparking outrage from California to Florida. James' fight, from protecting his dad to rallying neighbors like Margaret, Sophia, and Tom, shows a growing trend. Americans standing up to unfairness in their own backyards, often thanks to social media and solidarity. The lesson here isn't just don't give up. It's specific. Use the law and collective power to defend your rights. When Vanessa trashed the ramp, Elena cited the Americans with Disabilities Act ADA, a real legal tool anyone in the U.S. can wield against discrimination. James gathering evidence, violation notices, Tom's videos, Sophia's receipts, and sending it to the housing authority reminds us that documentation and persistence can topple abusers. In real life, if you face a Vanessa at your HOA or job, record everything, find allies, and don't shy from local authorities. Ultimately, as Henry said, sometimes you fight to keep what's right, and in today's America, that means knowing your rights, from the ADA to the Fair Housing Act, and using them to make your community worth living in, like Willow Creek after Vanessa's storm. Thanks for following our fight against Vanessa. If you want more stories about reclaiming neighborhood justice, hit subscribe. See you in the next video, where we'll dive into more wild HOA dramas.